Namaste, Guruji. Jai Guruji Maharaj. Jai Guruji Sangatji. On behalf of Multilingual Global Sevadas team, with folded hands and bowed head, we thank Guruji Maharaj for extending and enabling us with the seva of organizing satsang sharing. Today, we are fortunate to have amidst us Anil Seth Uncle Ji, who's a very devout and an ardent devotee of Guruji Maharaj. He will be sharing his journey with us. So, thank you, Uncle, for accepting and coming to share the satsang. And I'm sure we will all be very enriched after the satsang. Thank you, Uncle. Jai Guruji. Please unmute yourself. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji Auntie, and thank you so much. And millions and billions and trillions of thanks to Guruji for making this yet another opportunity to share with the Sangat whatever we have learned and uh, been inspired by Guruji. Guruji, amongst the world is full of many holy persons, and Guruji is not one of them. When you call a holy person, yes, Guruji is a holy personage, but he's very different. Uh, Guruji's darbar is probably the only darbar that I've seen where you do not need to share your problems, where you do not need to tell Guruji about whatever is bothering you and whatever is causing stress and misery and unhappiness. And the only darbar that I've noticed where the treatment meted out to every Sangat who comes there is absolutely identical. But the results on each Sangat vary from person to person. I don't know how much of the Sangat is aware of Guruji's life and uh, the journey which began at the birth time of Guruji. I was fortunate to visit Dugri along with Guruji on one occasion and learned from his parents, Guruji's parents, about Guruji's early life and how he used to carry himself. He was an ordinary child, like uh, children are. I mean, all children are naughty, they're all cute, and they're all loving. Yeah. Guruji was very similar, except that his behavior occasionally used to be very different. But nobody in the family, in Guruji's family, had even the slightest inclination that there was this wonder child. I'm calling him a wonder child for the time being because he was a wonder child at that time. And, whenever we are faced with a reality which is different from normal, we tend to get shocked, we tend to get surprised, we tend to get alarmed, we tend to get confused. And Guruji's mother used to say, uh, he would, occasionally go and play with the children. Cricket was one of the favorite games of the kids over there, but there was no playground. So they had to make do with cricket in the little space that was available. It was a muddy, grassless track where they would, put up a few bricks to serve as wickets. And one boy would go and bat, and 6, 7, 8 children were there. They used to have a good time. But the village chief, we call them pradhans over here in India, the village chief was one of those who did not relish seeing children play, because children playing meant children making noise, children getting excited and, speaking at the top of their voice. So this man, he was somehow not happy at such events. And once when a child hit the ball, which went into the landlord's home, he went to fetch the ball, and the landlord rebuked him, scolded him, and warned him of dire consequences. Told them not to play in front of his house. So 3, 4, 5 days maybe children did not play. But then children did need a place to play, and there was no other place to play. So they started playing once again. A little carefully so that the ball should not go into the landlord's home. But, well, as luck would have it, or as Providence willed it, the boy hit the ball, the batsman hit the ball, and it went and fell into the landlord's home once again. This time he was very, very wild. And when the child went to fetch the ball, he was not only scolded and rebuked, he was forcibly caught by his wrist and locked in the washroom. So the remaining children were, waiting for him to get the ball and come back. But that did not happen. So now, little Guruji, his name was Nirmal. So little Nirmal, probably 6 or 7 years old, everybody, coaxed him to try and fetch the ball and, also get their comrade out from the clutches of the landlord. So he went to the landlord and he requested him. Landlord now even more irritated. So he told little Guruji, Nirmalji, you get out from here. Otherwise, I will also lock you in along with the other boy. So his tone, the landlord's tone was very rude, very aggressive, very nasty, and very forceful and very dominating. So little Guruji turned back. He may have walked maybe 5, 7, 10 steps when he heard the landlord shouting behind him. And he turned back and looked. And now the landlord was terrified and he was standing in rapt attention. And there were two huge snakes, black cobras, entwined along his two legs with their, hoods barely 6 to 8 inches away from his face, ready to strike any moment. He was very frightened and he was like a statue over there. He could not move. He was so scared to move. And he only shouted, please help, get the snakes out of here. So little Guruji said, will you release my friend? I will do anything, you get the snakes out of here. No. Will you release my friend? So yes. Will you return the ball? Yes. Will you allow us to play? Yes. You do anything, get the snakes out from here. And then Guruji said, okay. And the snakes vanished. Now, this was probably the first instance of its kind which established that this little child, Nirmal, little Guruji, was a child with some supernatural powers. I'm using this terminology, supernatural powers, because nobody knew at that point of time who Guruji was and what the purpose of his life was. But this was the first instance of its kind that brought him into village limelight. And the journey went on. Guruji's family was amongst the lower income group families, perhaps. I don't know, lower income group or maybe middle income group. But the fact is that period in India, on that time, 50s, 1950s, India had just attained independence and people were not well off. Villages were without electricity. There was no cooking gas. So in the village, people used to cook on earthen pots, which involved either burning coal or maybe burning wood as fuel fire. So things were not as hunky dory as they are today. So once Guruji was at home and along with his mother, when three towering personalities, gentlemen, they walked in. They're all 6 feet plus, well built, muscular bodies, and they walked into his home and they exchanged glances with Guruji. And Guruji nodded uh, as if he knew them well. And they also nodded, paid obeisance to his mother. And then Guruji told his mother, Mom, please go and prepare some halwa prasad, kada prasad for them. So she quietly got up and she went into the kitchen. And then she called out Guruji from there. Nirmal walked in. Guruji went to meet her in the kitchen. She said, Who are these people? What have they got to do with you? You're just a 6, 7 year old and they are adults and I don't like such people coming home. He said, Mom, you just make kada prasad for them. She said, to make that kada prasad, there must be the required ingredients at home. Kada prasad is made up of suji and sugar and oil, and of course, the cooking utensil and the cooking fire. So probably she was trying to tell Guruji that these ingredients were not there at home. But Guruji did not listen. He hardly listened to what she was saying. He said, Mom, you don't need to bother much. Just pick up this utensil, put it on the stove, and pick up this big spoon and, just wave it around in that utensil and the kada prasad will be ready. And he did 3, 4 times himself and then he passed it to his mother. She was aghast because there was nothing in the pot at that point of time. But when she waved that spoon in that utensil, surprisingly, that kada prasad, that sweet pudding, it's a pudding made for pious occasions. It just materialized itself in that pot. She was stunned. And she was dumbstruck. I should not use the word stunned. She poured that kada prasad into 3 smaller utensils and brought it into the room where all these 4 persons were sitting, the 3 adults and Guruji. She gave the prasad to these 3 adults. They partook of it and then, again nodded as if in agreement and they left. So the mother waited for some time so that they should reach a certain distance from the home. And then she started, she started rebuking Guruji. She said, I just don't like why such adults should come to meet you. After all, what can there be in common between a child of 7, 8 years old and 3 adults? So Guruji said, Mom, do you know who these persons were? She said, I don't know and I don't want to know. I don't like the fact that people come here. You just seem to invite anyone and everyone, not knowing the condition of the kitchen. He said, Mom, they were Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh who had come to meet your son. He never said they had come to meet me. said they had come to meet your son. Now, this was probably the second uh, noticeable incident that established Guruji as a wonder child, because he waved that big spoon in that utensil and handed over the spoon to his mom, and the Kada Prasad was there. These are, incidents which are quite baffling to the common man, to the human mind, because we cannot comprehend things materializing out of thin air. But evidently, this is what had happened. So now the mom knew, and possibly the family also began to understand that this child is seemingly like the others, but very different from everybody else. So the journey went on. Incidentally, Guruji never spent a long time in Dugri. But later on, when he was going to school and he was possibly in the middle school now, this incident pertains to when an exam was going on, and one of his friends, sitting a few feet away, they were single rows because the exam was going on, and there was about 1 to 1.5 feet distance between two students to prevent them from communicating with each other, avoid any incident of copying and cheating. So Guruji noticed that one of his friends was crying. So he asked him what happened. His friend replied, "Oh, I can't write because I have run out of ink. My pen has no ink." So Guruji asked him, "Well, did you not bring an inkpot along?" He said, "No. I had filled the pen fully, so I thought it should suffice for the exam." So Guruji said, "Okay, well, pass me your pen." Friend passed him the pen. Guruji took it and he blew on the pen 3 times. And he returned the pen. Guruji said, "Now carry on, it will write." And the pen started writing. Now the teacher, who was about 15, 20 feet away, he was watching some kind of an interaction going on between these two boys. And sure enough, he came and quickly, caught both of them. What were you doing? Guruji told him that he had finished his pen. There was no ink in his pen, and so I just filled the pen with ink. He said, "But I never saw you dip the pen in the ink pot. I saw you blowing on the pen. So how did you fill the ink?" He said, "I blew ink into the pen." No, this was another shock for the teacher. He said, "You think I'm an idiot?" So he drained his pen of ink and gave it to Guruji. He said, "Okay, fill the ink in my pen. Let me see what you can do." So Guruji blew on his pen. Pen started writing. But somehow this teacher was not convinced, because by now there was commotion in the class. Everybody had stopped writing the exam, and all children were looking expectantly. They saw some kind of an entertainment was going on. So there was commotion in the class. So the teacher caught hold of Guruji's hand and he took him to the principal's room. And he narrated everything to the principal. So the principal asked him, "So Nirmal, is it true what the teacher is saying?" Guruji said, "Yes." He said, "You filled the pen with ink by blowing into it?" He said, "Yes." He said, "Can you fill any pen with ink by blowing into it?" Guruji said, "Yes." So the principal, he took out a new pen from his cupboard. He opened the packing and he gave that pen to Guruji. He said, "Okay, this is a brand new pen. I wanted to fill ink in this pen now." So Guruji blew on the pen 3 times and he gave the pen back to the principal, and the pen started writing. Now the principal was perhaps a little more learned and wise than the others. he felt that this child is not doing anything. It's not a prank, He felt this child has probably got some powers wherein he's able to perform this quite easily and probably to the amusement of everybody else. But then he told the teacher to carry on with the exam. At the back of his mind, he noted this incident and started observing Guruji very closely from that particular day. In in later years, uh, this principal and his wife, they prayed to Guruji for a son because they were a childless couple, and Guruji did bless them with a son. But at this point of time, Guruji was now probably had passed out from school and he was in college. So these incidents were, like beacon lights, neon lights on a dark, uh, lightless road. They could, they were um, short incidents which told the world around him that okay, here was a person who was quite like an enigma. They could not understand who Guruji was, and perhaps nobody asked him this question. It was much, much later that Guruji had to uh, establish himself as Guruji. This was a name that our little Nirmal gave to himself, Guruji name. And uh, he told people that he was an avatar of Mahashiva. Now, even today, I don't understand the difference between Shiv and Mahashiv. But I am only quoting what Guruji mentioned at that point of time, that he was an avatar of Mahashiv, and that he has jumped into this so-called world full of filth, full of rot, to save his devotees. Uh, when he said his devotees, he was referring to probably most of us who are now associated with him. He mentioned that his devotees were waiting for him, and he has come to redeem them. He has come to rescue them. And he has jumped into this filth because there was no other way he could rescue us. And then started the spiritual journey of uh, the Sangat, the devotees of Guruji, along with Guruji. Guruji is a very loving master. In fact, the number of times that I have met him, over 7 years, and we used to visit him every day. Because during that time, Guruji's darbar used to be held every day from about 7:30, quarter to 8 till about midnight and past midnight. So we were blessed, and Guruji did mention to me on many occasions that nobody can reach him without his permission. But even after reaching him, though everybody is blessed when you see him or when you meet him or when you partake of the prasad in his darbar. But to become his sangat is not easy because he said that he tests the sangat. And obviously, testing time means that you are faced with difficult situations, you are faced with challenges in life. And he mentioned on a couple of occasions that uh, whenever you are faced with such stressful times, you have many choices before you. One person may approach his friends and philosophers and elders in the home to seek their help and guidance so as to overcome the stress. Another person may probably go to the church or temple or gurudwara and consult the the wise persons over there, the priests, the purohits, And yet another person, he may drown himself in antisocial life, lots of drinks, lots of booze, lots of intoxication. And yet another person may take the help of fortune tellers, tantrics to overcome the stress. So Guruji said, I'm here and I have a lot of love and concern for my devotees. So I want to redeem them. And he mentioned on a few occasions that over the last 2000 years, I calculated that to be the post Jesus Christ era. So, the last 2000 years, not even 200 people have attained liberation from the cycles of birth and death. I said, once you become my Sangat, this opportunity is available to you. And how is it available? Well, go and attend Guruji's Darbar. You have those spiritual hymns, spiritual songs, which were penned by the Sikh Gurus, starting from Guru Nanak Dev and going up to Guru Gobind Singh. So these Sikh Gurus have penned the lyrics of so many Shabads. The Sikh songs are called Shabads. And Guruji used to make us listen to these Shabads for 2 hours. And he would say that this is a very opportune time for all of you to sit in meditation. To sit, he used to use the word samadhi. Samadhi essentially means that you become, you don't respond to surroundings. You just concentrate on the Shabads being played, try and imbibe the meaning of those Shabads, and then you partake of Guruji's Prasad and you go home. Guruji's Prasad meant he used to serve tea over there, followed by Kada Prasad, which Guruji used to give personally to each Sangat who had come there, and then followed by the community uh, Langar Prasad, which was shared by 4 persons. This was his normal and a daily routine. He would occasionally talk to people, and talking to him was discouraged. Now, the interesting part over here is that on one occasion when my wife was down with acute diarrhea, in fact, it was called amoebiasis by the doctor. And she was suffering from that for about 3 weeks now. She was not responding to any treatment. And then, very boldly, she said that now she's fed up with the treatment and she just wants to go and see Guruji. So I took her along. I told her, I said, be prepared. We drove carefully and carried a few extra panties with us just in case she requires them. And we reached Guruji's Darbar and she sat for those 2 hours without any problem. And the Langar Prasad on that particular day, besides the usual chapatis and dal and sabzi and pudding, it had garlic paste, garlic chutney. Believe me, it was so hot uh, that even a dip into that chutney was enough to send your senses rolling. I tasted it, and there was another lady and a child with us who were sharing that plate with us. They just tasted it and then they left it. So my wife had to finish it because Guruji always mentioned that don't waste the langar, it is meant for your consumption here. And that was the last she had of that amoebiasis problem. She didn't get that attack after that. Now, we never told Guruji that my wife was suffering from that. But that is his omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. And he would often say, I know why you have come here. So you don't need to tell me. Once you are here, if you are my Sangat, you don't need to do any prayer. You don't need to pray to me. And my Sangat does not need to offer ritual worship on a shivling by, pouring water and then pouring milk on the shivling. He said, you are absolved of all these formalities. You don't need to perform these rituals anymore. So this is our Guruji. He would, some of the most thought-provoking and profound spiritual queries were addressed by him in simple gestures and small one-line statements. He told me once, he said, Uncle, you're very lucky. You're very blessed. So I just folded my hands before Guruji. I did not understand the meaning of his statement. I folded my hands knowing that he is going to say something more. He said, today you are sitting one to one with Akal Purakh. Akal Purakh is the supreme personality of Godhead. Now, in fact, supreme personality of Godhead to me before that meant God or it meant uh, Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh, Lord Krishna, Lord Ram. But Akal Purakh as a name for God, I was not very familiar with that. But this was the name Guruji used. He said, you are sitting one to one with Akal Purakh. You're very blessed. So I folded my hands in gratitude and touched his feet. He has allowed me to kiss his feet on many occasions. That is another issue, another separate. I will dwell on that on some other occasion. So the journey with Guruji began, and we used to go there practically every day. If Guruji was in town, and he would often go to Punjab, Chandigarh and Punjab, without, any advance information for the Sangat here. Only on those days, we never reached his darbar, we never went there. But otherwise, if Guruji was in Delhi and he was conducting his darbar, holding his darbar, we would always visit him. We used to stay about 35, 40 kilometers away from Empire Estate, where his darbar was held. So, Guruji, I personally feel today that there are occasions where, the Sangat wants to have the satisfaction of telling him, of, you know, uh, communicating to Guruji what their problem is. And I feel that we do that knowingly or unknowingly because we do not understand spiritual tenets very well. So one particular day, there was a young man, 40 years old. Uh, he used to be there. I used to see him very often over there. And on this particular day, he was sitting there holding his stomach, implying that he was feeling extremely uncomfortable and probably having acute stomach pain. So Guruji may have also observed him. And after the Langar Prasad was over, and when this man went to take permission from Guruji to go home, Guruji asked him, what happened? Are you in pain? He said, yes, Guruji, today the pain is unbearable. Guruji called him closer and with his middle finger, he tapped on his stomach the way you would, hit a striker in a game of carom board. He tapped on his stomach like that and told him to go home, probably take a 4-twin injection and go home. So the meeting ended and he went home. The next morning, when he went to ease himself, he found a huge wriggly kind of a creature in his stool. It was not dead and it was still wriggling. He took a pair of gloves and picked up his stool, put it in a plastic bag, and went to the hospital with that. Something which may seem reprehensible right now, but this is what he actually did. So he showed that stool to the doctor, and the worm was still wriggling. It was not dead. So the doctor said, I'm surprised that this is there. It has come out in your stool. Because even removing this worm surgically is very, very difficult. It tends to, find corners to escape. So, well, the doctor told him you should be now much, much better because probably this was the reason why you were having pain. So in the evening, he went to see Guruji and thank him for that. And sure enough, when he went to take permission from Guruji to go home, Guruji asked him, how are you? Is your pain gone? He said, yes, Guruji, it has gone. He said, Guruji, I had been suffering from this pain for more than 2 months, probably 8 to 10 weeks. And I may have spent about 70 to 80,000 rupees in my treatment towards this. So, Guruji, why didn't you hit me like that 2 months ago? Now, I feel he should not have asked this question because what Guruji said after that, it was probably very embarrassing for him. Guruji said, yes, uncle, I could have done this even 2 months ago. But then that you had deceived so and so uncle of his money, 35 to 40,000 rupees. Now that had to come out, no? Said every penny earned the wrong way comes out through a physical torture. And obviously, this man felt so ashamed and he could not even look up to anyone because we were all around, Guruji was never alone. His Sangat used to be anywhere between 400 to 800 people in that small hall. And many of us would be sitting right next to Guruji, massaging his feet, massaging his shoulders, because Guruji often used to grant this service, seva service to some of the Sangha. So it is, I feel that Guruji rightly said, I know why you've come. You don't even need to tell me. Unless Guruji asks you, we were discouraged to speak with Guruji. This was the case of this gentleman. And there were many such instances. Another lady who used to visit Guruji regularly was visiting Guruji during the Hindu Navratri festivals. Navratri is at the time when a lot of people are going for fast. They don't eat for 8 to 9 days or 10 days. Or maybe just some of them take only one meal a day and that too a fruit meal. So this particular lady was a very devout follower of Vaishno Devi, the goddess of Pahada Wali, as we call her. And she would not take the Langar Prasad, which was served at Guruji's Darbar. And Guruji has repeatedly said that his Prasad is above all these rituals. You can consume it even if you're fasting. But this lady would very cleverly wriggle out, without consuming it, without partaking it. So she did that on a few occasions and would often tell the sevadars, people serving Langar Prasad, that she was on fast and did not want to eat. On one particular day, when she came to bow before Guruji, Guruji got up and he caught hold of her wrist and he took her inside the kitchen. And he opened the kitchen door, took her in, closed the door, and said, look, Auntie, look who's preparing the Langar Prasad. Do you worship the Mother goddesses, they were the 9 forms of Mother Goddess preparing the Langar Prasad for devotees' consumption. She started crying over there. He said, see, you are undertaking a fast to please them, to invoke their blessings. And you are leaving the same prasad that they are giving to you as a token of their blessings. Now, this is his way, Guruji's way of imparting an experience, imparting a teaching to the student. There were such instances, many of such instances. And my wife was suffering from acute. She was anemic, and let me just put it bluntly. She was very anemic. And every year, for 4 to 6 weeks, she used to get hospitalized to for restoration of her health. And family members, including me, had to, donate blood so that she could get that blood. She was very anemic, and I recall one instance when Guruji told her, he said, Auntie, you are blessed. The words Guruji uses, Kalyan Kitta, which means you are blessed. And that's the day, I think this happened sometime in probably 2001. Yeah, 2000 or 2001. And since then, my wife did not need to take blood ever again. Prior to that, every year, 4 to 6 weeks, she would spend in the hospital. We were devotees of Sai Baba. And when I would touch Guruji's feet, I would often say Sai Ram to him. There was no system of saying Jai Guruji to anyone. There used to be no mantra jap at that point of time. We used to go attend the satsang, have langar, and come back. And the only so-called ritual we were performing there was touching Guruji's feet when entering the darbar and touching his feet again when exiting the darbar. So I would often say Sai Ram to Guruji, and Guruji would look at me and smile, often smile. On one particular occasion, I recall my wife had never spoken to Guruji. Guruji had never spoken to her. Though I had been blessed with such communication from Guruji on a few occasions. And my wife used to feel a little upset about this. So why doesn't he speak to me also? Except that once he did speak to her, the Kalyan Kitta. But on one particular occasion, she went and prayed to the portrait of photograph Swarup of Sai Baba in our home. She said, Sai Baba, I want that at least Guruji should, acknowledge my presence and speak to me. On that particular day, my wife was sitting about 30 feet away from Guruji. Guruji was on his seat, and my wife was towards the end of the hall, just touching the door of Guruji's bedroom. Guruji got up from his seat. He walked on to where my wife was. He stood there for 3 to 4 minutes, speaking to my wife. Guruji used to speak very rustic Punjabi spoken in the villages. And my wife, well, she does not know Punjabi. So she was at a total loss. She could not understand what Guruji was saying to her. But she did get many opportunities to touch his feet. And, well, Guruji walked back after 3-4 minutes. So Guruji has, proved to us on many occasions that even if you don't worship Guruji, he doesn't want you to worship him as such. Because he said, all names are his, all forms are his. And he said this to another Sai devotee lady who was there. He called this lady, she came for the first time to Guruji. And while parting from there, Guruji told her to come again the next Thursday. And this lady used to go to the Sai Baba temple and sing devotional songs there. So she thought to herself that, okay, she has called me on Thursday, but I'll try and go there to Guruji on Wednesday or maybe on Friday, because Thursday was her uh, preordained time with Sai Baba. She went to the Sai Baba's temple on Thursday. She's holding a harmonium in her hands, and when she reached the temple, they told her that there was no bhajans today, there was no devotional singing today, as the temple was under repairs. So maintenance work was going on, painting and things were going on there. So she went very upset and saddened, and she came back and sat in her car. And in a daze, she started driving and somehow managed to reach Guruji's Darbar at Empire Estate. She went in, touched Guruji's feet, and she went and sat at the end of the hall. She started sobbing. She was, in fact, sobbing from the time she left Sai Baba temple. But having reached Guruji's Darbar, probably her sobbing was a little more intense, much to the disturbance of other devotees around. She took out her hanky from her purse and wiped her eyes and looked up towards Guruji, and suddenly discovered that Guruji was not sitting on his asana over there. It was Sai Baba who was sitting over there on Guruji's seat. And she just jerked her head like this in total amazement. And then again she found that Guruji was sitting there. So in a span of about 1 hour, maybe 1.5 hours, from the time she came into the darbar and the time she left, she had, every time she would look up, she would get a new divine darshan. She saw Lord Ram sitting over there in place of Guruji. Then she saw Lord Krishna sitting over there in place of Guruji. Then she saw Lord Ganpati, Lord Ganesh sitting over there in place of Guruji. And then she saw Lord Hanuman sitting over there in place of Guruji. And in between all these divine experiences, she would find Guruji was there. So Guruji, and then again some darshan, then again Guruji, again some darshan. And she felt that she was hallucinated now. So when she went to touch Guruji's feet for taking leave after having Langar Prasad, Guruji asked her, Auntie, have you seen what all you wanted to see? She was stunned, taken aback, and she asked him, Guruji, who are you? He said, Auntie, you were to sing bhajans in Sai Baba temple today. I told you to come here. She said, yes, Guruji, I know that, but who are you? She said, Auntie, your Sai Baba has sent me here. She said, but who are you, Guruji? He said, well, all the forms that you see, they are not different from me. All these forms are mine, all these names are mine. And I was always there, I am always there, and I will always be there, or always be here. Whichever form, whichever name appeals to you, wherever you address your prayers, you carry on. I am the one who has to reply to that. Yeah, this was a profound statement that established above everything else who Guruji is, and something that we can never comprehend. Understanding this in theory is very simple. It is a very consoling fact that we are in right hands, good hands, committed hands. We are in safe hands, and Guruji would never forsake us. But that experience is a very providential experience that probably has to be earned through countless acts of merits, pious acts, virtuous acts. We have to live a very blemishless life to, you know, gain this kind of devotion and this kind of a blessing from our Guruji. It is not available to anyone and everyone. I do not recall any other such incident of such magnitude, except in this particular case. Though I know of a few cases where children were blessed with darshans of Lord Shiva and where Sangat was blessed with darshans of Lord Shiva. But they were, just one darshan, split second darshan. And but in this particular case of this Sai devotee, it lasted for almost more than 1.5 hours. Sure enough, uh, Guruji would say on many occasions, he has said, when people address Guruji's blessings in the form of miracles, somebody's cancers go vanishes, somebody's tumors vanishes, people get blessed with children, people get blessed with many other miraculous happenings in their life. And they attribute these blessings as miracles. So Guruji would just, laugh along, play along, but he has remarked on many occasions. He said, I am not a magician. I don't perform magics over here. Whatever I think, whatever I say when I bless someone, that has to happen because that is my will. And when I will something, all the forces of nature, all the forces of this universe, this creation, would fall in line to fulfill that commitment of mine. And we are amazed, we are blessed, truly, 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 truly blessed, because in our lifetime, we have come across such a wonderful, loving, omnipresent, omnipotent, omniscient personality, Guruji. You know, he would say that when he blesses someone, the so called miracles are actually his acts of blessings, and they are meant to inspire, they plant seeds of devotion in the hearts of the person who is impacted by this, the person who is blessed with this. So he would say, I grant some of your very worthless wishes also, so that at some point of time you turn inwards, turn Godwards, and you begin to demand from me those things that I have actually taken birth to give to you all. His avatarhood, when the Lord ascends, when the Lord descends on planet Earth to bless us, he doesn't come with toffees and lollipops to give to his devotees. He comes with, more meaningful and uh, abundant blessings. But he would say that you people do not know what to ask. You ask for worthless things. And, well, at times I give in to those worthless things. At times I try to counsel you, try to teach you. Don't ask because I first bless your physical needs, then I bless your domestic needs, and then I come to your worldly needs. So he said it's a process and it may take time. And because you have the baggage of countless births prior to your present birth that you're carrying with you, and that needs to be neutralized. And how will it be neutralized? By listening to Guruji's shabads, by partaking of the prasad that Guruji used to give with his own hands, and partaking of the langar, which we used to share. For Sangat used to share that langar. He said, you leave the rest to me. Because once I take you in my fold, I will make sure that you reach your destination at the earliest. But the moment you start deviating and you start praying to me, no, 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 I want this and I want this and I want this. He said, then, you know, the process of delay, cause and effect relationship comes into play. He said, don't use that. Be totally surrendered to the wills, to the uh, to the divinity of the master before you. Don't question him. Don't pray to him. Don't seek, you know, irrelevant blessings from him. Let him give you what he will give you. And believe me, Guruji gives you the best. We don't know what to ask. And even when we do ask, it is usually worthless things. So it is much better to, remain in his fold. Now, the master is always there. He took samadhi in the year 2007, and you know, I have seen his devotees crying inconsolably over there. They felt very lost. They felt uh, very torn apart, and they felt a very, very major portion of their personality, of their life, has been snatched away from them. But that was never the case. It is not the case, because the form which has come will go one day. Lord Ram came and went. Lord Krishna came and went. The Sikh gurus came and went. Jesus Christ came and went. Whosoever has come into this world has to go one day. And the sooner we understand that, the better for all of us. Guruji has not gone anywhere. He's very much there with us. He will always be there with us. And we are fortunate. I will mention a few incidents over here that establish beyond anyone's doubt how closely Guruji monitors us, how closely he is watching us. We can't hide anything from him. In fact, he knows the innermost thoughts of our life, not only of this life, countless lives before us. And but he never punishes us. He would occasionally, refer to maybe a past life, but he would always say, follow what is happening. Don't question him, because the baggage that we are carrying is not easy to dismantle. But he is committed to dismantling that, and we must fall in line. Guruji, when my daughter had to get married, this was in the year 2015, 8 years after Guruji had taken Samadhi, she and her fiancé decided that they would offer the first wedding card to Guruji. And they went with a lot of eagerness. They're very happy about giving the first card at Guruji's Darbar, Bada Mandir, Bhatti Mines. But somehow they reached the Darbar when entry was closed. People had started leaving after partaking langar. So they did request the Sevadars on duty at the gate, but they were denied permission to enter. So they were standing outside, eyes were moist, and didn't know whether this was a good omen or a bad omen. So this is, you often get such negative thoughts when you are faced with a stressful situation. And then suddenly, a lady came from inside the temple, She opened the gate and she looked around and she called out to my daughter and fiancée. She held their hands and she took them inside the temple. So they were very fortunate. And then while they were praying at Guruji's shrine, they left the first card on Guruji's seat, and then they were given langar prasad over there. And after finishing the langar prasad, my daughter thought that she should at least thank this lady for making this difficult situation easier for them. So she looked around for her, but this lady was nowhere to be seen. And nobody seemed to have seen her. She asked a few people, they said no, everybody was dumbstruck. They could not identify this lady that my daughter was referring to. That is Guruji's omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience. There are many instances, in fact. The first time when I met Guruji, he knew why I had come. He asked me, he said, why have you come here? How have you come here? I said, Guruji, I have come for your blessings. He said, yes, yes, I will bless you. Who has sent you here? Has your sister sent you here? I said, yes, Guruji. What does she do? Is she a teacher? I said, yes, Guruji. In what, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, or maybe 1 minute, he told me, I understood that, okay, he is not an ordinary person. He knows. And if he knows this much, he would also have the uh, power to know much more. We can't possibly hide anything from him. He has already demonstrated. Guruji is a wonderful master. And he has, I have been blessed with some very penetrative facets of spiritual learning, uh, like ABC, DDD, COD. These are my personal abbreviations. ABC was something that Guruji has mentioned on many occasions. He said, to be my Sangat and to progress on the path of spirituality, you should avoid abusing people, A for abusing people, B for blaming people, and C for cursing or criticizing people. He says, because when you indulge in ABC, you are knowingly or unknowingly putting yourself in that rut once again, in that cause and effect relationship. So avoid ABC at all costs. Take everything, because nothing, once you become Guruji's Sangat, nothing ever can happen to you without Guruji's permission. Even if something wrong, that you understand that something wrong is happening to you, it will happen only with Guruji's permission. Nobody can interfere in your life without Guruji's permission. Guruji said that once you overcome ABC, then comes the time of DDD, duty, discipline, devotion. I don't know, I've never heard Sangat talking about DDD. And then comes the more important part, COD, which is sealing on desires. I have never come across anyone speaking of COD. Maybe people are not aware, or maybe they have forgotten it. I do not know. But I have personally made it a habit, to memorize and note everything that Guruji has said orally or implied to me. His vachans are available there in the form of 101, 105 vachans, 105 spiritual statements made by Guruji. Besides that, there are so many occasions where miracles happened with us. Certain times miracles happened in our presence, where we personally witnessed uh, huge potentials, huge portions of grace being conferred upon some. And we could see the impact, because the eye is the first source in the human body the impact of grace, tears start flowing down the eyes, tears which are uncontrollable. You begin to melt from within, and the water starts churning out from the eyes. I've seen that on so many occasions. Sorry, some folks seem to be coming. So this is our Guruji, and if we begin talking on the spiritual doctrine of Guruji, I think that may be uh, 2-3 hours at least to talk on that, to share those experiences. But I suggest to everybody to follow Guruji's vachans. Read those vachans because they are self-explanatory. Once you follow those vachans, you will begin to understand what needs to be done by us devotees to invite the grace of Guruji. You see, one form of grace is always there. What you need to survive is available free. Oxygen is there. Your breathing is going on undisturbed. Water, sunshine is there. Even if you are a sinner, even if you murder somebody, God makes sure that even behind the bars of a jail, you are given 3 meals a day. You're given a roof over your head. So such blessings are there for everyone. And then such punishments are also there for all those who violate the laws of humanity. But once you become Guruji's Sangat, once you begin to follow the path ordained by Guruji, follow the path shown by him, you are governed by a different law. Because then Guruji is the master. And he has said it on so many occasions. Whatever will happen to you will happen only by my will. Even a medicine will not affect you if I don't bless it. So understand the level of the minutest points in your life that Guruji has watched over or is watching over. Love him with all your hearts. Pray to him if you need to, but when he has said you don't even need to pray. Though the Guru Granth Sahib Ji says, Ardas, Sumiran, and Shukrana, which means prayer, uh, chanting of the Lord's name, and thanksgiving to the Lord for his immense mercies and blessings upon us since time immemorial. But once you become Guruji's Sangat and you understand that he's a master who has absolved you of all these rituals, then life is different. Very, very different. You're controlled by a different spiritual law. You're in the hands of a master who will never forsake you. Jai Guruji, Jai Guruji, Jai Guruji. Thank you, Guruji, for making this happen. Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai.
Jai Guruji Maharaj.
Thank you, Auntie.
On behalf, Hanji. Jai Guruji Maharaj.
Thank you, Auntie.
On behalf of Hanji, thank you, Uncle. On behalf of Sangat listening and on behalf of Multilingual Global Sevadar team, I thank you, Uncle, from the bottom of my heart for such pristine and divine satsangs you've shared. And even the teachings and tenets of Guruji, what you have shared is just amazing, Thank you so much, Uncle. Thank you so much. How beautifully you've shared his childhood days, and the small teachings which we have to imbibe in our daily lives. So, Anantam Shukrana. Thank you, Uncle. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji. Jai Guruji. Shukrana.